Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Today is Monday, September 22nd, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Stud Network. I'm live here in Louisville, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where Nancy Lieberman had her Celebrity Golf Classic. We literally just got off of the course, and so I'll talk a little bit about that. Now, on today's show, yesterday, massive rally in Arizona, memorial service for Charlie Kirk. Trump and his entire cabinet were there. His supporters claimed it was a rally for Jesus, but that's really not what it was. We'll have former Congressman Joe Walsh on the show to talk about what we heard from there. Even Trump saying he despises, he hates his enemies. Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Minnesota, is calling up the GOP-controlled House for their failed attempt to censure her over comments related to the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk. Disney decides to put Jimmy Kimmel back on the air. We'll tell you about that on the show as well. Plus, Washington Post columnist Karen Attiah claims she was fired for speaking out against political violence and racial double standards. She'll join us to discuss this as well. Plus, Donald Trump denigrates another Black female reporter. Ebony McMorris of American Urban Radio Network will join us here on the show. Folks, it is time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Stud Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Yesterday, folks, upwards of 100,000 people were at a NFL stadium in Arizona for memorial service for Charlie Kirk, who was shot and killed on the campus in Utah. Donald Trump and his entire cabinet were there as well. There, of course, you had various speakers there, including his widow, Erica Kirk, who also spoke. But what really struck folks was the tone coming from the person you're seeing right now. This is literally what he had to say about political opponents.
In that private moment on his dying day, we find everything we need to know about who Charlie Kirk truly was. He was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great, great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent. And I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent.
Yeah, nobody's convincing him of anything because he degrades anybody and everybody. Joining us right now is former Illinois Congressman Joe Walsh. He is the host of The Social Contract with Joe Walsh, his particular podcast. Glad to have you back on the show, Joe. Here's what was interesting. I was looking at Eric Erickson and other people who were commenting, and they were talking, Joe, about, how this was nothing like Paul Wellstone's rally. This wasn't a political rally. This was a rally for Jesus. It was a religious rally. And I'm sitting there going, do y'all act like we couldn't see and hear what was being said?
Hey, Roland, always good to be with you, my friend. You know, Eric Erickson and the rest of them can go jump. Think about this. Jesus was all over that stadium yesterday. Everybody touting and preaching Jesus, and yet the leader of that gathering, the party leader, is the very antithesis of Jesus. And just think about that, Roland, for a moment, right? Donald Trump is the very antithesis of Jesus, and yet everybody in that stadium voted for Trump. They all support him. They all, by the way, when he said, I despise my political enemies, I hate them, the crowd cheered, the crowd laughed. Man, they can never, Roland, get over my friends on the right. And look, the reason I love coming on with you is because I come from the right, and I'm a reformed MAGA gangbanger. You know this, my friend. I know this. Cruelty and hatred sell on the right. It just does.
Yeah, it does. And so, listen, I don't have any problem with anyone having a memorial service. I don't have a problem with anyone talking about Jesus Christ. I'm a Christian. But let's be real clear. If we're going to start talking about Jesus Christ, then we're going to talk about what Jesus preached about, what he talked about. And that is not the agenda of Donald Trump and MAGA. And it wasn't the agenda of Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA.
Yes, and Roland, thank you for speaking some truth there. I knew Charlie Kirk well. He was like a son to me. We went our separate ways when Trump came on the scene. Charlie Kirk was a Christian nationalist, Roland. Christian nationalism, white Christian nationalism, is all about making America formally a Christian country. Man, that is antithetical to America. It's antithetical to Christianity. And so many of those folks in that stadium yesterday, Roland, they are Christian nationalists. They want a religious war so that America can formally be a Christian country. Man, we separate religion from the state. These folks don't want that.
And if you listen to Stephen Miller, what he had to say when he talked about, evil, and he was frothing at the mouth. And look, we know exactly who he is and what he stands for. And what gets me is then they get upset when people don't agree with it. Then they get mad if folks don't buy into what they're selling. And again, they act as if we don't have ears and eyes, and therefore we can't hear or see.
Roland, they're trying to silence us. They don't want people to speak, and I've been pounded by this. Don't speak poorly of the dead. Again, it's horrible that Charlie Kirk was killed, but it is so darn important for us to identify what's going on because, Roland, this is what my former political party is, and everybody listening to us now needs to understand this. The most powerful animating force in the Republican Party is Christian nationalism, white Christian nationalism. This is the base of the party. It's no longer some fringe movement, and it was on display yesterday. And for those of us who love this country and love freedom and democracy and the freedom to worship however the heck we want to worship, man, we got to call this out for what it is.
So former Democratic senator from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, was on Fox News. I guess he has a new book out or something like that. And I can't believe he even let these words come out of his mouth. Listen to this.
President Trump is the person who can basically bring us together. And I'm praying that he's able to say, listen, enough's enough. Come on, we're all Americans. We've got to live in this world together in our country and keep it the greatest country on earth. We can't do it by tearing each other apart. And I'm really hoping, I believe in him, I believe he can do that. And with that being said, he's able to calm down all this rhetoric right now. And those who want to basically still spew it, then that's fine. It's going to show you being on the extreme.
Roland,
Joe,
you and I...
What the hell is he talking about?
You and I have heard so much in the last 15 years. That is probably the most stupid, the most ignorant, the most ridiculous, and the most partisan thing I've ever heard Joe Manchin say. Roland Martin, he can't believe that. Donald Trump is the guy to bring us together. I don't know what Manchin's deal is. And by the way, Roland, I'm a new Democrat. I've only been a Democrat 3 months. Manchin left the Democratic Party. All he does is rip the Democratic Party when my former political party is an existential threat to our democracy. I don't, for the life of me, know what game Manchin's playing.
Don't know what game he's playing, and we're not buying it. It's simply not true. And I'm just sitting here going, dude, this guy does not care about bringing us together. He says point blank, I hate my political enemies. I'm sorry. What else do you need to know? And the people in there, the Stephen Mills of the world, the people in his cabinet, you look at what their policies are. And at the end of the day, you see how they are attacking people. They've been doxing people, calling people's jobs, getting people fired because of comments they actually made in social media. So again, on one hand, they keep espousing, oh, Charlie Kirk was about civil discussion. He was about debate. He was about all those things. But what they are doing, they literally are attacking anyone and everyone who says anything, and that's what they are about. And listen, I keep telling people, this ain't going to change. Joe Manchin can say whatever he wants to. It's not going to get better. This is what we are going to have to confront over the next 3.5 years, and people are going to have to wake up, and they're going to have to vote in massive numbers in the midterms to shut these folks down. Otherwise, it will only get worse.
Roland, you're spot on. And again, everybody listening to us, take it from me. Somebody who comes from the right. These are my former friends, supporters, and voters. We got to wake up to this. Nobody should be celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk, but you nailed it, Roland. What my former side is doing is using the killing to call for some religious war, some righteous war, some civil war, because they're after Christian nationalism. That is way more dangerous than a few crazy people on the left celebrating the assassination.
Absolutely, absolutely. Folks, check out The Social Contract with Joe Walsh. Download his podcast. Check it out. Joe, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, my friend.
Folks, going to go to a break. We come back. We'll talk with our panel. Lots more we got to talk about, folks. It's a jam-packed show. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network, live from Louisville, Texas. Of course, a stone's throw from Dallas-Fort Worth, where I'm here for the Nancy Lieberman Klein Celebrity Golf Classic. Back in a moment.
I'm Dr. Greg Carr, and coming up on The Next Black Table, we're speaking with Dr. Lucius T. Outlaw Jr., master teacher and philosopher. He takes us on his journey to discover and celebrate Black philosophy.
From my undergraduate years at Fisk all the way through my PhD, I was never in a philosophy class where I had a professor who was a person of African descent, nor assigned a text written by a person of African descent, ever.
How he pushed back at those who said there was no such thing and got us all thinking about what it means to be Black. That's on The Next Black Table, exclusively on the Black Star Network.
My name is Lena Charles, and I'm from Opelousas, Louisiana. Yes, that is Zydeco capital of the world.
My name is Margaret Chappelle. I'm from Dallas, Texas, representing the Urban Trivia Game.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you watch.
Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
All right, folks, my panelists today, Cameron Trimble, CEO, Hip Politics, media and former White House senior advisor, joining us from D.C., Kelly Bethea, communication strategist out of D.C. as well. Glad to have both of you here. Cameron, it was crazy just, again, to look at all this commentary all I was seeing on social media yesterday, how they were trying to describe this event. It was outlandish to act as if, oh, if you were not participating in this and reveling in this, then you were not a Christian. That, to me, grossly offensive.
To me, too, as a Christian, as the son of a United Methodist bishop, I've been a Christian and heavily involved in my faith my entire life. As Joe Walsh pointed out, so many of the tenets of Jesus or so many of the tenets of Christianity are completely the antithesis of what Donald Trump and obviously what the Republican Party are spewing. Lack of forgiveness, lack of compassion, thinking about how much they want to take away, and they're cutting, whether it be for the poor, for the hungry, for education. I think he hit it right on the head in the sense that this is an opportunity to really us and them. And with some of our founding documents of this country have been about separation of church and state, about the opportunity for this to be a country where all people from all nationalities and definitely from all religions are able to freely practice, and for them to see those people like cheering at going after our enemies, to see them cheering about some of that stuff, it fundamentally shifted my soul. Like, I think if you would ask any pastor, any Christian, or anybody from any of the denominations in the Christian faith, like about some of those tenets, and you line them up to what was being spewed yesterday, you'd be on two sides of the page.
But here's what we have to recognize, Kelly, and that is there's always been a difference between the Christianity that black people have practiced and that of a slaveholder religion. Look, we can go back to not only just during the period of slavery, during the period of Reconstruction, but during the period of Jim Crow. The reality is you had black churches who were operating totally different, but they were focusing on compared to these white churches. The Southern Baptist Convention was advocating racism during Jim Crow, and so many other denominations as well. Dr. King said the most segregated hour is 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning. So it's not like what these folks have been practicing is any different than what they were practicing in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s.
It really isn't. And I echo the sentiments of Cameron here, because I grew up in church as well, but I actually grew up in the church similar and almost aligned to what Turning Point preaches, what Charlie Kirk I'm hearing that I can't be heard, but I will keep going. But when it comes to Charlie Kirk, white nationalism, Christianity as a whole, basically, I'm sorry. Okay.
Kelly, keep going. Just keep going, Kelly.
The issue with white nationalism and white Christianity is the fact that we are really in a situation where they do not believe the same things that black Christians believe. They simply don't. I feel like white Christians come from, or white Christian nationalists specifically, because I don't want to make too generalized of a statement, but white Christian nationalists come from a standpoint of conquering and colonization, whereas black people, we pray for survival. We pray to survive. We pray to live. White Christian nationalists pray to conquer. And when you come from those separate ideologies of thought, there's no way that you can be serving the same Christ, because Christ didn't come down to conquer. Christ came to save, which is why people pray to Christ, right? And further, when it comes to Charlie Kirk's comments, when it comes to his so-called Christian beliefs, everything has to have a context to it in order for you to feel good about anything that he said, right? Everything that I've been hearing is like, oh, it's taken out of context, it's taken out of context. But the question that you really need to answer, you need to ask and answer yourself is, why do you need context for a racist? Why do you want to have context for something that was so vile in its infancy, in the small wording that he said? Why do you want a larger context surrounding such hatred?
All right. Got to go to a break. We come back. We're going to talk to Karen Attiah, who was fired from the Washington Post. She's going to tell us exactly what happened. It's been 11 years there. Why did the Jeff Bezos-owned Post make that decision? That's next right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to be able to cover news all across the country. So we got some amazing things lined up. You're going to be help funding this show, 4 other shows on the network. We're launching 2 other shows, and so we need your support to do so. And so please support us by contributing. If you want to use Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here in the bottom left-hand corner. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Checks and money order. Make money orders. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. Back in a moment.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shootings.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Latasha from the A.
And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
After 11 years as a successful columnist at the Washington Post, Karen Attiah has been fired. She claims that she was fired, and the Washington Post, because she was speaking out against political violence, racial double standards, as well as America's indifference toward gun issues. She did not hold back after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, criticizing conservative activists for calling for the firing of a number of people. Now she says her termination is part of a troubling purge in America. Karen joins us right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Karen, glad to have you here. First and foremost, okay, so it looks like we lost Karen, so let me know when we get her back, and then we'll move forward with that particular interview. What we're also going to be doing, folks, we're going to be talking to, in a little bit, Ebony McMorris, with Donald Trump's continuing, first of all, insulting black female journalists. Now, folks, now check this out. Okay, we got Karen back. All right, Karen, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Roland.
Okay. All right, Karen, glad to have you here. So let's walk through what happened here with you and the Washington Post. This obviously did not come out of the blue. Had this been building, had this been a lot of back and forth, they claim you violated their social media policy. Explain what they actually said to you as to why you've been fired.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, like so many other columnists, like I've been doing for the last several years of my job, I took to social media to just talk in very, very broad and general terms about America's history of political violence, of gun shootings, of mass shootings. Again, it wasn't just Charlie Kirk's shooting was not the only shooting that happened that day. There was also the shooting of school children in Colorado. So at that time, I was commenting on the empty rhetoric of thoughts and prayers and political violence has no place here, all of that. So I had a series of those posts on Blue Sky and went about my day. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of backlash. There wasn't a whole lot of sort of disagreement or anger with anything I said. Then about 12 hours later or so, the next day, I get a call from a DC number. Couldn't pick it up. I just come back from training martial arts. And then about 2-3 minutes later, I get an email with the subject line, notice of termination. The letter that I got accused me of gross misconduct, that my Blue Sky posts put my colleagues at risk at physical danger, and that very specifically my posts referencing white men and political violence, or white men who espouse hatred and violence, was a breach of policy, and that was disparagement and disrespect in relation to Kirk. So those were the official reasons why I was terminated, according to the Washington Post, which, of course, I categorically reject and deny.
Now, here's what is strange. When you look at white domestic terrorism in this country, it is largely committed by white men. The Dylan Roof killing 9 black people at Mother Emanuel in South Carolina, white man. The white man who shot and killed 10 black people at a supermarket in Buffalo, again, white man. The man who allegedly killed Charlie Kirk, white man. So you are stating facts. So are they saying that that's not factual?
Yeah, I'm very confused as to their denial of facts, as to their interpretation of facts, not just interpretation of facts. I mean, this is all backed up by studies done by the Cato Institute, the FBI, the National Institute of Health, and it's not just about the violence, but it's also about, my commentary is about how we tend to, in very broad terms, absolve, coddle, normalize white male violence and men who espouse this hatred. And actually, I was specifically referring to the case in Minnesota, Melissa Hortman, and those shootings. I was not even directly referencing Kirk, because at that time, we didn't have a shooter identity. We didn't have a motive. So I was doing my job and sort of exercising restraint, right? You know, not getting ahead of the facts, as we say. And yet somehow that was gross misconduct, and according to the Post.
Last I checked, you were an opinion columnist. So is the Washington Post saying that they have an issue with opinion columnists giving their opinion?
Apparently, that is the case. That's the way I was fired, for doing my job as an opinion, not just as an opinion columnist, but it's expressly, I've been told that we were supposed to be social media presences, that our voices should be out there in the public domain, you know, adding to the discourse. And also, you know, this was not a spicy observation. I can be spicy. This was, if anything, this was not celebrating Kirk's murder. This was not celebrating political violence. This was lamenting our inability to get out of this doom loop of gun violence, of mass shootings. I'm from Dallas, right? Like, political violence has a cloud over my hometown from the Kennedy assassination. That too was a white man who killed another white man. This has been the backdrop of political violence, and not just political violence, but anti-government violence in this country. And I've been saying this in my work for years, and I'm not the only one. And yet somehow this tripped a wire.
Well, so let's just be clear. The Washington Post, like the LA Times, like so many other media outlets, have been bending over backwards to kiss the ass of Donald Trump. Jeff Bezos has been doing that. the new leader of the Washington Post, Will Lewis. That's what they're doing. And frankly, they have been trying to get rid of people. They were doing buyouts. Folks were taking those buyouts. Were you encouraged to take a buyout? And if you were, why did you choose not to do so, knowing full well that a lot of your colleagues have been leaving because of this new leadership at the Washington Post? This Washington Post today ain't Katharine Graham's Washington Post during Watergate or the Pentagon Papers by a long mile.
Yeah, lots of questions. I mean, I will definitely say, just even earlier this year, I published a piece about my writer who was killed, Jamal Khashoggi, and challenging power and challenging the sort of bromance of these authoritarians, and they were proud to publish that. And people ask, well, why didn't you take a buyout? I actually had a long form project that I had a green light to go ahead and finish. So I was still doing my job and working on that project, which I'd been working on for, at this point, nearly a year. So I was still trying to finish a project and a job that was still really important to me, regardless of what was happening. So I was trying to focus and, keeping my head down to an extent. And yet this happened. And I think I'm just the type I recognized what it meant to be the last Black full-time staff columnist in the opinion section. And I just wanted, I guess, to do the best that I could, and it all turned out this way, unfortunately.
We're operating in a totally different world. The Fourth Estate has historically held power accountable, put pressure on power. New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Philadelphia newspapers and other papers as well. But what we're now looking at, we're now looking at corporate interests who don't give a damn about the Fourth Estate, who don't care about journalism, sacrificing journalism for the sake of profit in various deals. And people need to understand we're going to be worse off if this continues, because if you don't have media holding power accountable, then who else is going to hold them accountable?
Absolutely. And it's not just, media. I mean, yes, media not able to hold people accountable, but the self-censorship, right? The chilling effect, the sort of people wondering, where they're going to run across a trip line and then get their entire careers blown up. And this is also against the backdrop, against the climate, increasingly, especially since the Trump administration took hold, of a decline in press freedoms across so many press freedom indexes for American journalism, right? And this is against the backdrop of decline in press freedom around the world and a retreat from democracy. And it's all too often, at least in this country, particularly, that Black journalists are on the front lines of that, being taken out, right? I mean, I think, Roland, actually, you might have been the very, very, very first, when I was a baby journalist, a baby little wee thing coming to DC. You might have been the first on-air interview I might have had. And here we are now on The Independent, still wanting to do journalism. We're having to do this outside of the traditional corporate media. Just says a whole lot, right? And I think for a lot of us, particularly Black journalists, we've been screaming, crying, throwing up, trying to warn people that what is happening right now was going to happen, and we were laughed at, right? And I guess I'm still processing what a lot of this means, still for me. I'm still processing how 11 years, not just as a columnist, but as an editor, as someone, anyone knows me, I care deeply about not only my own speech, but I've edited and platformed writers from around the world, so many of whom I disagreed with. But understanding that power to be seen and heard is something to be shared. But we're in an era, I think people need to understand, we're in an era of censorship. And I said this ever since the changes were coming down from the opinion pages, that it wasn't just about, oh, we have these new pillars. I was like, well, okay, an era of censorship is on the way, is here. And I don't think Americans have quite wrapped their head around it. This is something that, quote unquote, other countries, unfree countries do. No, the fire is here. Now what?
Yeah, and listen, journalism is going to be sacrificed by these corporate overlords. So go to my panel with questions. Cameron, you first. What's your question for Karen Attiah?
Oh, I'm not able to hear the question.
Karen, I can't hear it. Cameron, you're on mute, bro.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, good.
Now we can hear you.
We all stand. Thank you. We all stand behind you and really praying for you in your next steps and really hope you continue to use your voice even in independent media. My question here is, had you seen a distinct difference pre and post the Bezos takeover of Washington Post around some of, like I said, the standards and the standards and practices and so forth around the reporting?
Good question. So my entire career as at the Washington Post was in the opinion section, which is I'm looking back on it now, I'm like, wow, 11 years in the opinion section. So I had never been on the news side, which there's a slight distinction in the sense that the opinion side, we do get a wider berth latitude, right, to be able to still be beholden to facts. Of course, many opinion writers, columnists were former reporters. We still do our own reporting. It's just we get an opportunity to say more of what we think. So I was brought on I was actually brought on right when Bezos bought the paper. So this was 2013. So I was explicitly brought on to actually help with social media. And back in the day, I actually helped craft social media guidelines to help train other writers to be able to use social media quite well. So actually, the majority of my time in the opinion section has been about using the power of the pen, about using the power of the op-ed section and the editorial section. I actually used to write editorials to advocate, to have points of view. We were told by Bezos himself, I sat across in a room with Bezos himself. He looked us all in the eye, myself too, and said, I want you all to be provocative. I want you all to be swashbucklers, is what he said. And we were killing it. We were known for having pretty, an active, vibrant staff online and on TV. That was actually a part of, I think, the Washington Post's brand, as opposed to, certain, perhaps other competitors that were a bit more hemmed in as to what they could say on social media. We were actually, I think, pretty free as a major newspaper dealing with how to deal with the social media world and everything. So a lot of us young folk who were brought in during that time were actually quite diverse. Of course, not so much could be improved, but we actually had a lot of diversity of editors, a lot of diversity of producers. We were able to comment on a range of political and cultural things. So Black Lives Matter, Me Too, movements around the world. So it was definitely, not just a more open place, but a place where freedom of expression and advocacy for journalists. My colleague Jason Rezaian was imprisoned. Bezos was quite behind the efforts to get Jason out. And then, of course, my writer, global opinions writer, Jamal Khashoggi, we really stuck our flag in being a home for the protection of journalists. So my head is spinning as to how we've gotten here where journalistic freedom now is, quote unquote, a risk to the Post instead of something that they paraded around as their bona fides. It's a 180.
Kelly.
Thank you.
Hi, Karen. One thing that has come about in this entire discourse, especially pertaining to your departure from the Post, is the concept of cancel culture versus censorship, right? And I do not personally believe that that they're synonymous. So in your opinion, what do you necessarily think happened as far as the difference between cancel culture and censorship? Can you see how that line was towed, or frankly, just all the way stepped on, crossed, what have you? And how is that impacting journalism as a whole?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked this question, because I think what is going on, I've always thought the sort of cancel culture name trend was sort of a trend, was sort of a way for people with bad ideas to claim that they were unfairly being victimized and pushed out. Frankly, I think a lot of it, given that cancel culture, the idea of being canceled actually came from Black pop culture. This idea that Black people, especially marginalized people, especially, were getting a bit more of the mic, particularly, I guess, under the Obama administration, particularly when it came to sort of Black Lives Matter, and particularly when it came to the rise of the internet. In my mind, I always thought that that was a bit of the backlash, not so much about the cancel culture, but that white folks especially weren't centered. Right. So equating not being censored with being canceled was one thing. I think what we are seeing now is beyond cancel culture. It's beyond disagreement. If anything, if there was a lot of, wow, we just don't like your opinion. Wow, you're just wrong. Here's what we think. Here's the female perspective. Here are the marginalized perspectives that never make it into the pages. What this Frankenstein is, I'm calling this is annihilation culture, because this is not about a debate. You don't get the FCC involved in with a comedian's night show and say that is cancel culture. That is, we will threaten not only your job, but your institution. We will chill the entire sector. People are getting doxxed over this issue, losing not only their livelihoods, but their safety. People are getting death threats over this. And we actively are hearing people in the administration, this is a challenge. Will we still have a First Amendment? Right? That's not just cancel culture. That is an annihilation, a desire to not have free speech. That is a desire to eliminate your perceived enemies. That, to me, is an annihilation culture, which is chilling and frightening. And in the context of what I know you all were discussing with the Charlie Kirk memorial event yesterday, I think we should take that into account in terms of what we have at least left of our free speech rights right now.
Also joining us right now is Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, president emerita, Bennett College. Glad to have you here. Julianne, you're talking to Karen Attiah, formerly of the Washington Post.
Yes, Karen, I'm a big fan of your work. I follow it, don't agree with you all the time, but I do think that you're a great writer, and I appreciate what you've done. I am concerned. I like the term that you use, annihilation culture, because that's kind of what's going on. It's just erasing opinions. To what extent, as we look at what's happening right now, with you, but with many others, and in the context of what I call the canonization of Charlie Kirk, they made him a saint. They're going to give him a Presidential Medal of Freedom when he calls black women stupid. Put a pin in that. But to what extent do you believe, because I read the pieces that you wrote, I didn't see anything egregious in them. To what extent do race and gender play in the way that you were essentially canceled? And what do you think that those of us who are not only your fans, but also folks who want to hear both sides, can do about what happened to you?
Well, what is chilling in my case, both chilling and nonsensical, is the explicit reasons, at least that the Post cited as examples, were basically saying that I crossed a line by mentioning white men. And actually, if you go back to my commentary, I didn't say all white men. I didn't even say some white men. I made a very specific description and relative clause. I said violent white men, right? So for me as an opinion columnist, particularly one that focuses on race and gender, you're saying that I can't talk about white men? Are they now violent white men, is violent white men a protected class? Which would then actually prove the point of my Blue Sky post. And this is why what is happening to me with the Post is going to be so chilling for any reporter that deals with race, patterns, facts. This is legitimately, again, protecting, at least as the letter stands now, saying that we should protect violent white men. And so to that extent, I can say, obviously, that is how race and gender is directly tied into. I know there was a lot of sort of misinformation or assumptions that it was because I had talked about Charlie Kirk's, just one post about Charlie Kirk's views on Black women and their lack of what he claimed of brain processing power and stealing white men's slots. But actually, what the Post was saying is not only that, according to the letter, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, not only that my references to violent white men factually posed a risk to them, was a gross gross misconduct, but that right, I mean, it's setting a really, really, really sort of dangerous precedent for anyone who wants to be able to write accurately about this country, not just me.
And not only write, but also to give their opinion. Last question for you, Karen. What's next for you? What's your plans?
Well, stay tuned. Obviously, I categorically reject and deny what was brought up in that letter, and that this was a wrongful action that they took against me. So stay tuned for more on that. But right now, I am on Substack. So you can find me at the Golden Hour on Substack. I am also, because this is not the first time I've been canceled with talking about race. I taught race and media at Columbia University, and that class did not get renewed. So I am actually in my rogue radical professor era. So I'm teaching race, media, and international affairs on my own, online, in the next few weeks. You can go to resistancesummerschool.com and sign up. I'm teaching this to a version of my Columbia course online for 7 weeks. So we'll be talking about everything from the beginning of the League of Nations in 1919 and the Racial Equality Clause to colonial papers to the Black press. So I'm just really determined to still keep going, even if these, institutions are caving and are being cowardly. We still have to keep going anyway. So for those who want to still take my class or to contribute towards scholarships for others, you can sign up for as low as $100 for recorded lectures and guest speakers. I had a great summer pilot this summer with 500 students and 40 scholarships. So I'm going to keep teaching. I'm going to keep doing my thing. So I'm not going anywhere.
Well, again, look, that's important. Look, 2013, I love CNN. That was 12 years ago. Spent 6 years there. Haven't missed it one bit. Left TV One 7 years ago. Haven't missed it one bit. And so the reality is journalists continue to do the work and continue, and because the audience is there. It's just a simply matter of having to build it and not having to wait and rely on corporate media. And trust me, I think it's going to be a whole lot of people who are going to be trying to do the exact same thing because journalism today at these companies is not what it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. Karen, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Roland, thank you for support. Always. Thank you.
Thanks a bunch. Folks, when we come back, we're going to chat with Ebony McMorris, American Urban Radio Network, the latest black female journalist attacked by Donald Trump. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network. I am here in Louisville, Texas, where Nancy Lieberman Klein had a celebrity golf tournament. So as you see, the golf course is the backdrop. And so we had a great time out there on the course. And so, yeah, it was pretty cool out here. Great day. And a nice breeze going right now. All right, folks, I'll be right back.
In my book, The Power to Persist, I share 8 simple yet powerful habits, a blueprint for transforming obstacles into opportunities and pressure into purpose. Just as they fueled my rise from the South Side of Chicago to a national stage. And on the Power to Persist podcast, I bring that blueprint to life.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
Hurricane Katrina, 20 years later. Cannot believe that it's been more than 20 years since we saw Black people and Black communities across New Orleans and the South being failed by our government. But it's a harrowing lesson. We're going to unpack how race and class intersect in ways and how we need to talk about this government doing more for our communities. Again, you're watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Greg Card. And coming up on The Next Black Table, we're speaking with Dr. Lucius T. Outlaw Jr., master teacher and philosopher. He takes us on his journey to discover and celebrate Black philosophy.
From my undergraduate years at Fisk all the way through my PhD, I was never in a philosophy class where I had a professor who was a person of African descent, nor a sign of text written by a person of African descent, ever.
How he pushed back at those who said there was no such thing, and got us all thinking about what it means to be Black. That's on The Next Black Table, exclusively on the Black Star Network.
Carl Payne pretending to be Roland Martin. Holla!
You ain't got to wear black and gold every damn place, okay? Ooh, I'm an alpha, yay! All right, you're 58 years old. It's over.
And you are now watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable.
All right, folks, we know that Donald Trump is a vile, disgusting individual. The first time he was there, he attacked numerous journalists, specifically female journalists. Even more specific, black female journalists. It was April Ryan. It was Jamel Hill. It was Yamiche El-Sindor. It was Rachel Scott. Well, the other day in the Oval Office, when reporters were asking various questions, Ebony McMorris of American Urban Radio Network posed a question to Donald Trump regarding the National Guard in Memphis, and this happened.
Mr. President, and we're going to be going in quiet. You're really obnoxious.
I'm not obnoxious, but I'm trying to ask you, what about your plans for
really
Memphis?
Obnoxious.
I'm not obnoxious, but I am asking, what are your plans for Memphis? Many people want
I'm not going to talk to you until I call on you.
What are your plans for Memphis?
Who else? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to sell this free speech question, because you've said that you restored free speech in America.
Yeah.
Is that free speech including for people who are harshly critical of you, for your political opponents, for people who say things you don't like?
I've become immune to it.
Unfairly?
I've become immune to it. There's never been a person that's had more unfair publicity than me, and that's why your network paid me $15 million, or $16 million, I believe, to be exact, George Slopadopoulos. And that's why CBS paid me a lot of money, too. And that's why I sued the New York Times 2 days ago for a lot of money. Because I'm winning. I mean, I'm winning the cases. And the reason I'm winning is because you're guilty, John. You're guilty. ABC is a terrible network, a very unfair network, and you should be ashamed of yourself. NBC is equally bad. I don't know who's worse. I think they're equally bad. And, you know, for you to stand there and act so innocent and ask me a question like that. But look, you paid a big price because you were dishonest, John. The reason I won that lawsuit was because you were dishonest. You were proven to be dishonest. And so you can't sit back and just say, oh, well, what do you think? You know, like you're some wonderful person. You're not a wonderful person. Frankly, you're a terrible reporter. You know it, and so do I. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do.
So what you saw there is Donald Trump. He does it on a regular basis. He attacks John Carl. He attacks Peter Alexander. He does not care. He is not respectful. He is not civil. He is an ingrate. He is a ghoul. He is a completely despicable human being. Joining us right now is Ebony McMorris, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Network. And first and foremost, Ebony, first of all, glad to have you here. And so explain to people what happened. Explain to people what happened there, because again, reporters there in the Oval Office, they're asking questions. A lot of people don't really understand what that process is. It's called a spray, and they got different words. They got different phrases for it. But explain to people what was happening.
So we were a part of the pool, and the pool, most people don't know, is made up of about 11 or more different media outlets, and that pool follows the president. Whatever he does on that day. And so we were called. It was not open to all press, only the pool members, which is why there were only a limited number of reporters in there. And we came in the room, and if you saw the entire picture, when you came in the room, he had a bust of Lincoln on the desk with that big gold card on the side. And I'm walking in the room. Normally, I'm always yelling out. I just don't hardly ever get a question. And that day, I decided to just double down. But I'm thinking, as I see Lincoln, I'm thinking about Robert E. Lee's painting that they just hung back up, while I'm looking at this bust of Lincoln and this gold card, this executive order that is basically a pay-to-play program for wealthy elites to come into this country. I'm seeing that at the same time, and I really just want to know. I had several questions. One was on Memphis. Another one was on 2 black men found hanging from a tree, one at Delta State University in Mississippi. The others, I had a couple on Charlie Kirk, but I really wanted to also get to questions that we don't really hear about. What is he saying about the DOJ scrubbing a report that talked about right-wing extremists and what they're doing in this country, how they're wreaking havoc? I could just only get the Memphis question out. And we've seen him berate reporters over and over again. And I just wasn't having it on that day. I just was upset. And this is a couple of days before the Charlie Kirk funeral. And so When I was yelling, he kept calling to the person on my left and my right, if you watch the whole thing. In fact, one reporter got in like 4 questions. And I said, well, you know what, this time I'm just going to just keep going. I'm tired today. That's how I felt. And
to that point, Ebony, what people don't realize, they'll sit there, even in the White House press briefing, they'll call on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. I mean, even Fox trashes them. Even when Biden was there, Obama was there, Fox trashes them left and right, and they still show them more respect by calling on them. And folks like you rarely ever get called on. And you're fighting for time, and the questions that you're trying to ask, and let's be perfectly clear, you didn't get called on a lot by Karine Jean-Pierre in 4 years of Biden. So I ain't got a problem saying that. And so you're constantly there, so you're showing up every single day in the White House briefing, and there are questions that you have that are specific to the interests of African Americans that rarely ever get called on. And people have to understand the reason that's so important is because other reporters are there. People are watching online. And when you raise something, these white reporters are not going to raise those things. And so all of a sudden, hell, a lot of the stuff is news to them because they ain't paying attention themselves.
And I'm glad you said that. But let me just say this. You know who was in the room? Sean Spicer was in the room. I was like, not even a journalist. What we have seen in this administration is that it feels like the room was opened up to everybody. But going back to, your last comment, I hear people often say, where are the reporters? Why aren't they saying anything? Where are they? There are some of us in the room for Black owned and operated reporters. AURN is Black owned and operated. There's only a handful of us. There's literally only a handful of us. And this is the most reporters I've seen in that briefing room ever. Literally, it goes to the back of the room, almost to where the kitchen is. And so it is literally a fight in there. And what you also don't see is that you have even some of these MAGA reporters, while their press briefing is going on, commenting loudly at some of the reporters because they don't like what we're saying or some of the questions. You've had that before, small sneers. But there have been confrontations that didn't get on camera that I have seen happen outside of that room. That's just the amount of tension that's in that room. So we're there, but I also want people to know that fight just doesn't end in that White House. And Roland, you and I always talk about this. The fight and the work happens outside of that. We already know what is going to be said. I could have told you he was going to spin that question from the beginning, but I also know that I still, regardless, just like Allison Dunnigan, the first Black White House reporter with black reporter with female reporter with credentials, it took years for her to actually get called on. But she still had to keep raising her voice. She still had to keep pushing. Just like Ethel Payne, we have to keep doing that. And the fight isn't just there, it's outside. It's in the community. And our voice is important because we come from those communities. I have heard so many things in that room sometimes that I'm telling you that have disturbed my soul. And so on that day, I just had to say, I'm not going to let you rage bait, because this president rage baits. So if I can get you in an exchange or do this, he called Yamiche second rate, then we can go back and forth. But I am not going to let you just say that without me at least saying, no, now let's get back to Memphis. No, I'm not obnoxious. Let's get back to Memphis. He told me to be quiet. I paused for a second and I just kept going. But that is just a snippet of the fight that we go through on a day-to-day basis, but we cannot quit. You talked about earlier the fourth estate. It is our role as reporters, and we're seeing a shift to be like a watchdog, right? To hold power accountable. When we talk about our role in here, it is shining a light on government and corporate actions and keeping them accountable and making sure the public knows what's being done. That's why you talk about it. I talk about it all the time. The Black press is so important. So the president called me so obnoxious. Well, guess what? Obnoxious means unpleasant. I will absolutely be obnoxious when it comes to finding out what is going on with my people, what you're doing in this office, and holding true to power and accountability. I don't mind being that. At first, I was like, no, I'm not. I came home. My daughter said, that means unpleasant. Let's get unpleasant. I said, you know what? You're absolutely right. Ida B. Wells had to get unpleasant. I don't know anybody who has had to fight in this country, especially for the freedoms of Black folk, and you didn't have to get obnoxious. I'll be indignant too.
You know, one of the things there, of course, when he called you obnoxious, you're like, no, I'm not. So typically what happens when he attacks reporters, they don't say anything back, they don't respond, and you were like, nah, you ain't gonna sit here and try to call me out, and I'm just gonna sit here and just suck it up and take it.
He got 4 sentences. He got over 4 sentences in with the other reporter, and my face was like, are you gonna cut him off? I get it. It'll throw you off in the beginning. But I'm like, you're not gonna get 4 sentences on. I mean, he berated him. I was like, at some point, can somebody in here cut in? But that was his fight. I did what I had to say and just shut it down. You're not gonna get the whole sentence out. But at the end of the day, our role is so important, right? And because we're trying to figure out what to do at this time. He started off, Roland, talking about Charlie Kirk, and we always say this, no, that was a heinous crime. It was horrible. No one should do that. But I was troubled in my spirit because I am tired of white Christian nationalism draping itself in this martyr language, right? And so we end up risking, we end up sanctifying oppression, and they end up nailing themselves to the cross, right? But we have seen white nationalism, this language just nail itself to Jesus. We've seen it during Reconstruction. We've seen it during Jim Crow. We've seen it, I mean, even on January 6th, they marched to the Capitol and they prayed. They prayed. They kneeled and prayed. You are not going to do that. And so it's dangerous. And it happens, and we have to call it out. And they are choosing, I would say, empire over church, government over church, even though they say they're coming in the name of church. So that was weighing heavily on me on that day too. But I just had to say, what is going on in Memphis?
Questions from my panel. I'll start with you, Cameron.
One, thank you for standing up, and thank you for pushing back. I don't think, as a former White House aide and having been in those rooms, having seen the pool reporters, it takes a lot of courage in those settings to really stand up and push back against, especially against a president like this. And that's where my question is often my experience, having seen it up close, and which we've watched over the years, often there's almost while there's competition amongst all the different reporters and trying to make sure their questions and their questions get answered or they get quoted, get their quotes, there's also some sort of, like, I won't say like brotherhood, sisterhood, but there's some sort of like shared collective. And often you sometimes will see reporters who may stand up or may push back or may follow up with that same question if your question didn't get answered. Have you seen in covering Trump these last 9 months, and covering the White House these last 9 months, have you seen other reporters or other outlets either stand up for you or kind of follow up on the questions you may be shouting out that get overlooked, and they following back up and like repeating them or being helpful to try to get some of your questions into their questions that do get answered?
No, no. I unless you've seen that when you've watched the C-SPAN, not when it comes to, first of all, let's just be honest, because many of us will get on the phone and see, okay, sometimes we have to count the Black people in the room. How many questions do you see come from us? And I definitely don't see necessarily a follow-up. I understand what you're saying because I've seen that before. If someone got cut down, they would then come and say, well, let me follow up on that. You do see it sometimes, but some of the questions that I've yelled out, I've not had anyone do that. But this government, this administration, in many ways has tried to delegitimize Black reporters. I mean, we've seen revoking of credentials. I would say this president, in some ways, we are seeing a Nixon style things run like that. So there's like an enemies list. There's an enemy. I mean, we've seen the enemies list. This isn't just me. He puts it on Truth Social. One thing you can say about this administration, one thing you can say is that he puts his card out there. They wrote a book about it, right? So we can't be surprised. He puts it on Front Street. Now, why America does not want to believe, I don't understand, but I will say this, the importance of this moment, even in light of what happened with Jimmy Kimmel, people canceling their subscriptions, don't go back, take that subscription, and then go find a black outlet. Take that subscription, don't go back. Yep, he's back on, but take that money and put it to some good use. Because people are always saying, where's the black media? Or they spew stuff that they hear on TV, on mainstream media. And there are black reporters, there are black outlets that are giving you more information. But it is also an economic fight. You got to put your money where your mouth is. Put your money where your hope is. What do you want to see? Well, who are those outlets that are giving you that information? That little bit that you think just goes to that subscription, that $20, why not support black media? I know I got off in the question, but I had
Julian.
Yeah.
Now you got it. Julian.
I'm here. Yes, Roland. I want to follow up what Sister said about supporting black media. You are an icon in that you created your own platform and have given voice to lots of folks. The challenge right now, in my opinion, is that there are too many. I wrote a piece last week called Welcome Back Cowards. There are too many folks who are really not willing to lift their voices. They're willing to go along to get along. But the fact is that we know, let me just drill down for a moment, Roland. From this perspective, this man said he was going to fix the economy. And what he's done instead is created a series of distractions, dystopian drama. The economy has not been fixed. So I always have to go back to that. I'm an economist. Go back to the fact that unemployment rates are rising, that the black unemployment rate right now is 7.5%, twice the white rate, that 300,000 black women have lost their jobs because of Doge. We have to go back to any number of things. And when we go back to those things, we go back to the fact that inflation is rising, that he actually had his hand-picked doodle-wop put onto the Fed, and that man could not even argue. He wanted a 0.5 point reduction. Jerome Powell and the others said a 1/4 point reduction. His own doodle-wop could not, he wants it to go down by 2 points. He could not even justify that.
All right, so Julian, what's your question for Ebony?
Ebony, what is how would you share with me the backlash on Lisa Cook, and what can we do to support that sister who has been basically totally vilified and as that man does? What can we do for Lisa Cook?
Not be silent. You started off by saying it. Sometimes people just take a back seat or they don't talk about it. The wonderful thing about black media is that when mainstream media moves on, right, when they've got the snarky headlines out and it's been said and moves on, the issue still persists. We cannot remain silent. We have to keep pushing this story. We have to check up on those people, especially, I mean, it's crazy because even the Supreme Court today, the ruling with the FTC, that he may be able to let go of board members. Justice Ketanji,
the reality of the market is banks always.
He said, we're electing a king. And so we cannot remain silent. That honestly is the key. Jimmy Kimmel, whatever, that's fine. But black media, we have to keep that story in our mouths, and we also have to support each other. There are stories, there are times I actually watch a lot of different outlets and read other outlets because there may be something that I'm missing. I watch Roland all the time. I'll go back to my audience and reference him, right? So we have to, even in our sphere, we have to support each other. That's very important. Most of our outlets are limited. We don't have as many resources, right? There's not a black outlet that's in the travel pool. So we do in-town travel. So we have to to come together collectively, to support each other, to support each other's stories. And when we're sharing things online, we share all these funny things and all this other stuff. I need us to start sharing things that's meat, things that's going to help us. We feed ourselves so much junk food, right? Socially and culturally and politically, but we got to get some meat on the bones. And that's how we stay informed, because what I don't want is what we saw in the last election, and people would be like, I didn't hear her talking about that. I didn't see that. Who was covering that? We've been covering it. We've been covering it. Where you been?
Kelly.
Sure. So, Ebony, I'm a fan of your work as well, and I want to almost reiterate the question that I gave to Ms. Karen Attiah earlier regarding the differences between cancel culture and censorship, because what I saw in that clip of you on C-SPAN was censorship. And with cancel culture, at least culturally, no pun intended, it was really about elements of accountability and holding people accountable for their actions and the consequences of not being held accountable for your actions. So can you put your spin or give us your opinion on the difference, how that line has been thinning, and what's next for you?
I would say when we talk about cancel culture versus censorship, when I use the word censorship, to me, I just think now we're talking about legal issues here. When we talk about the freedoms, the First Amendment protects 5 freedoms. The First Amendment is protecting speech, it's protecting press, it's protecting religion, the assembly, and petitions, right? Those are the things that it covers. And so at its core, it says the government cannot silence me, and the government cannot control the press. So I would put censorship in that category. So it cannot do that. But we are seeing the fundamental rights that we've had, we're still having to fight for them and push for them. So it's important that, let me tell you something. The situation with Jimmy Kimmel, that was 6 days, and he's back. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Now, who knows whether some of the different stations will cover it, but 6 days. I didn't see someone have to come to the front of the line and say, hey, we're going to have a meeting here and announce a boycott and do this. No, people immediately responded. People had to drag people to the table for Target fast. Mm-hmm. They had to have news conferences. We had to have this. Okay, what day we starting? Okay, let me go get all my stuff first we shouldn't have to prepare. It's go time. I'm not going to put my money in a place, as we always hear Dr. Carr says and repeat, where I am funding my oppression. I don't need a press conference anymore. It's go time. 6 days. Come on. If we galvanize like that on so many other areas, what could we do in 6 days? What could we do? I think people need to understand the power that they have. Media, we have to use the power that we have. And yes, sometimes it's scary, because when President Trump got in office, I did have to have a conversation with family and friends. Let me just tell you what can happen sometimes. Let me figure out how to prepare. And for those, I'll say this lastly, doesn't matter what your industry that you're in, because we saw this happen with government workers. We have seen during this presidency, a president who has tried to censor and go after companies. If you are supporting boycotts, he has gone after people and tried to push executive orders for people who are trying to peacefully protest. That's something that I have a right to do. So there's censorship going on all around. But on the meantime, and I know, Roland, you talk about this, while we are in our industries and working, build on the side, because you never know when the rug is going to be snatched out from under you. And then we also have to support each other. We have to have the word community in our mouth at all time. No one is coming to save us.
And that's absolutely true. Ebony, we appreciate it. Keep handling your business there at the White House. Look, we got to be there to challenge them, to push them, to prod them, and let them understand that we ain't backing down, we ain't going nowhere.
Not at all. Thank you, Roland.
Thanks a lot, folks. When we come back, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. She has some tough words, and oh my God, MAGA is losing their minds, including golfer Phil Mickelson. He is really upset. He wants her to go back to Somalia. Sounds like she's getting under his skin. Maybe she should give him some golf tips, because he sucks on the Live Golf Tour. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Stud Network.
In my book, The Power to Persist, I share 8 simple yet powerful habits, a blueprint for transforming obstacles into opportunities and pressure into purpose. Just as they fueled my rise from the South Side of Chicago to a national stage. And on the Power to Persist podcast, I bring that blueprint to life.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder Disney Plus, and I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
Folks, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, she is driving these MAGA people out of their minds. They were so upset because she was on MSNBC, on a weeknight show, and she had some critical words about Charlie Kirk and the right. Here's what she said.
Here's, a president that is always unhinged, always deranged, always creating chaos and division. And he seems to have a real obsession with anyone that is an immigrant in this country that is not of European descent. You don't hear him talking about the accent of his wife and, the fact that she came here as an immigrant or any of those things, or the fact that she gets to have an opinion even though nobody elected her into office. But he has an objection to a person who does serve over 700,000 constituents in Congress, who's literally elected, has the same certificate as he does. But I think for me is I feel embarrassed for him, because in these attacks, what he does, and I think with the likes of Nancy Mace, and whoever that Randy guy is, they expose themselves for how stupid they are. And that is embarrassing for us as a country, because these are people who are elected to positions of leadership. He's supposed to be the president of the United States, who's heading off to Europe to represent us. When he does, he's uneducated enough to understand that members of Congress can't be impeached. When you have Nancy and Randy saying, we're on it, we're going to impeach her. When they're saying they're going to deport me, knowing full well that you cannot deport an American citizen. What that displays for not just Americans, but folks on an international platform, is that our country is being led by idiots. And that is not something that we should be comfortable with as Americans, and that's not something that should make us proud. And so in this moment, I feel great sadness as an American that these are the kind of people that the world gets to see representing us. So
Let's see here. Professional golfer Phil Mickelson wasn't happy at all. Y'all, this is what he tweeted. He goes, Ilhan spews hate every time she opens her mouth. She came here fraudulently and will hopefully be sent back to Somalia soon. Phil, she ain't going nowhere. So, I mean, I know you conservative white guys, y'all can't handle that. And do y'all notice that these women of color just drive them crazy? I mean, they cannot stand Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who'll be on our show later this week. They can't stand Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. They love attacking her. They love attacking Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. They love attacking Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They love attacking Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. And so, you know, I think, you know, I would think, Kelly, these people, they hate women. But they sure can't stand women of color who they can't stand women of color who speak their minds, who's not afraid of them.
Well, I wouldn't even say that they hate women. I would say that they hate themselves, because most of, if not all of their rhetoric has some type of projection attached to it. It's like you're calling her stupid, but she's very well educated. You know who wasn't very well educated? Charlie Kirk. You're talking about people who have called us moronic, demonic, stupid, you know, pick a word that is negative and evokes vitriol. It's coming from a place that you see in yourself. It has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with black women. It has everything to do with the fact that you don't like change. You don't like the fact that you are no longer being centered in a narrative that has nothing to do with you. You are projecting. You are projecting and hiding behind this veil of Christianity that, frankly, if Christ today came down, like apparently he's supposed to do in a couple hours with this rapture talk going on, I don't think your clothes would be folded and you would be in the ether with your Lord and Savior. I don't think you would recognize your Lord and Savior, considering that he was a Palestinian Jew and dark-skinned with hair like wool. That's not the one that you're worshiping. I don't know what you're worshiping, but it's not the God that I serve, right? And it is sad that it has come to this. It is sad that we are in a state of affairs where you are literally seeing the mediocre failing up and disparaging those who actually put in the work, who actually do care about this country, who actually want it to succeed and be better, right? And not just trying to reserve remnants of a history that was negative for, frankly, everybody involved.
Well, it's interesting that...
So go ahead, Julian, go ahead.
I'm looking at Phil Mickelson, a mediocre golfer. You know more about golf than I do. But, you know, he's peaked, and then he's dropped. And so he has something to say about Ilhan Omar, who is brilliant, who is amazing. All of the squad are really talking about the centrality of the Constitution. The Constitution, flawed though it may be, really does speak to voice. They don't want voice. They want hegemony. And that's what they're attempting to deal with. They're trying to canonize Charlie Kirk, making him a saint, which he wasn't. Tragedy that he died, oh well. But I'm not being flippant. But the fact is that when someone is canonized for calling black women stupid, he's being canonized for disrespecting black women, canonized for dealing with all of that. Is disgusting. But more than that, what we're seeing right now is an attempt to change the narrative about this country. Even the founding fathers did not believe that we were a Judeo-Christian country. This is what they want. They want to erase anyone who does not fit into their narrow white occasion, of essentially the narrative. And so it's important, Roland, for you to be out there. It's important for a whole list of people to be out there. It's important for us to resist this nonsense, because it is nonsense. But so many people, I'm really looking at some of our Democratic legislators who are trying to play nice. You cannot play nice with evil. You simply cannot play nice with evil.
Well, Karen, I love that Omar and Crockett are just driving these people insane. Every time they talk, they just, oh my God. Mickelson even was tweeting about Crockett as well. And I was like, oh, just make him crazy. And I'm like, Phil, you should get your ass out Twitter and go practice on your golf game because you have sucked in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. I think what something that's really interesting that is coming up is that, and I think it has happened, it's not just been the Charlie Kirk assassination, it's not just been this Phil Mickelson tweet, but something that has been laid to bear is how many followers, how people really feel. That's one thing I will, if I'm going to give Trump some credit for, is that he's allowing people to really show their true colors. And I think this, even as we talked in the previous segment, and understanding the power of our convening, the power of our dollar, the power of our protest, we can really kind of see who's for us, who has been living behind a veil of nicety, and now that they're kind of unleashed and feel they have unfettered access to be able to say whatever they want, to be able to come after our elected leaders, to be able to come after Black women, to be able to come after Black men, to be able to come after Latinos, be able to come after so many different groups. I think it allows us to now kind of see clear-eyed, who are we supporting? I mean, Phil Mickelson, I mean, like I said, I know we're ragging on where he is in the golf game, but he's, I mean, objectively a golf legend. He's done so much. But now it lets me know, hey, I'm not supporting any Phil Mickelson's golf clubs. I'm not supporting any Phil Mickelson because I'm an avid golfer. I'm not doing, whether it's his golf balls, his shoes, is any of it that. I don't need to put my dollars there. I don't need to, as you say, fund my oppression. I think I'm so proud of Congresswoman Omar. I'm so proud of so many of those the few that are standing up, especially on the Democratic Party, and they continue to be inspiring to so many more people. It actually makes me feel good because, like I said, now we can kind of see people's true colors, and it allows us to know, all right, you know what? When this all subsides, when this all, as we move forward, we know who we're not supporting. We know whose dollars, those 1-some-odd trillion dollars of Black spending. That's what we need to be taking note of. Like, hit them where it hurts. The thing they seem to only care about is the money. So let's make sure we're not funneling money back into our oppression, back into those people who will gladly see us gone, gladly see us wiped off the earth.
Well, the last couple of weeks have certainly shown me who I will be unfollowing and blocking as well on social media. All right, going to a break. We come back. Why is the Trump administration trying to hide the hunger data in America? And another racial gerrymandering case, this time out of Alabama. I'll have those details for you when we come back. Right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network here at in Louisville, Texas. Of course, this is the lakes at Castle Hills. This is where Nancy Lee McCline had her golf tournament. And so an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous day. And so y'all know I got the best of both worlds, sitting here playing golf and doing Roland Martin Unfiltered. Somebody got to do it. Might as well be me. Back in a moment.
I'm Dr. Greg Carr, and coming up on the next Black Table, we're speaking with Dr. Lucius T. Outlaw Jr., master teacher and philosopher. He takes us on his journey to discover and celebrate Black philosophy.
From my undergraduate years at Fisk all the way through my PhD, I was never in a philosophy class where I had a professor who was a person of African descent, nor a sign text written by a person of African descent, ever.
How he pushed back at those who said there was no such thing, and got us all thinking about what it means to be Black. That's on the next Black Table, exclusively on the Black Star Network.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
Hurricane Katrina, 20 years later. Cannot believe that it's been more than 20 years since we saw Black people and Black communities across New Orleans and the South being failed by our government. But it's a harrowing lesson. We're going to unpack how race and class intersect in ways and how we need to talk about this government doing more for our communities. Again, you're watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Paula J. Parker. Truly proud on the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder on Disney+. And you're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
For all of their proclamations about Jesus Christ and Christianity, let's be real clear. MAGA doesn't care about poor people. Donald Trump doesn't care about poor people. And so it's evidence by what they have done. So check this out. The Trump administration, they're ending the annual hunger report. They're claiming it's been overly politicized and rife with errors. It comes 2.5 months after Trump signed legislation sharply reducing food aid to the poor. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated that the tax and spending cuts would mean 3 million people would not qualify for food stamps. This is a statement from the Department of Agriculture. The U.S. Department of Agriculture announced the termination of future household food security reports. These redundant, costly, politicized, and extraneous studies do nothing more than fearmonger. For 30 years, this study, initially created by the Clinton administration as a means to support the increase of SNAP eligibility and benefit allotments, failed to present anything more than subjective liberal fodder. Trends in the prevalence of food insecurity have remained virtually unchanged, regardless of an over an 87% increase in SNAP spending between 2019 and 2023. USDA will continue to prioritize statutory requirements and, where necessary, use the bevy of more timely and accurate data sets available to it. Okay, so this is what's stupid to me then. Okay, Cameron, if you're saying that something is wrong with the data and you're going to use new data, why are you getting rid of the report? No, you're getting rid of the report because you don't want people to know the increase of folks who are in poverty, and then because you're cutting food subsidies. That's what this is all about. It has nothing to do with the data. So if you're saying, oh, these reports have been filled with bad data, but we're going to be getting new data, fine, put the new data in the report. They can't do that because they know the new data doesn't exist. It's a lie.
I think this is literally one of the biggest alarm bells and one of the thing we should be most afraid about, because this is an unsettling trend from the Trump administration where they are taking away public reports, whether it's the FDA, the CDC, the DOJ, statistics. I mean, he threatened to get rid of his Department of Labor folks over at the department later because he didn't like the job. He didn't like the job numbers being updated and re-reported. They are trying to, and as we see what they're doing with the FCC and trying to use it as a bludgeon on media, they are trying to control a narrative to paint a picture. They'll never say the word recession, even if we're deeply in a recession. They'll never say there's a hunger problem, even though any person on the street, you can go to any 50 states in America and I'll show you people who are hungry. And with so many people from that big, beautiful bill who are going to lose, I think it's estimated some 3 million people may lose SNAP benefits. And mind you, everybody thinks SNAP and thinks food stamps. So they've promulgated that, oh, that means black people, minorities. No, there are way more white people on SNAP than there are black people and minorities who are on that. But what is scary is that what we could rely on and what independent parties could rely on, think tanks, research, universities who are able to build reports on this agreed upon what they thought to be factual data now that is going away. Now we won't be able to understand what's happening. And this is, like I said, this is a disturbing trend across the administration for them to be taking down normally publicly available statistics for every American who pays their tax dollars to be able to see, to understand how the government is performing, to understand how various departments and how various agencies are performing. This is a full attempt to hide, and they already showed they don't care about hungry people. They don't care about homeless people and unhoused people. They don't care about those who aren't doing as well financially. So this is another way to bury that stat and make those people and their plight even more forgotten.
Yep. Yeah, and so this is real clear, Julian, when there's data that they don't like, their first response is, Okay, we're going to get rid of it.
You know, Roland, I've been around the block a whole bunch of times. I remember back when I worked actually in the Carter administration, and they tried to they had black and other, and they would not drill down on black. It was just black and other. I think at one point they were calling it non-white. And this echoes, data tells the truth, liars tell lies. People do not want to, the whole issue of disaggregated data has been an issue as long as data has been collected. Who are we collecting it about? Do you want to show the gaps, the racial wealth gap, the hunger gap, other gaps? And this is what we're seeing here. That hunger report has been reported for more than 30 years. I mean, I was a baby girl economist under Carter when that was being reported. Here we fast forward 40 years later, and we still have people say they don't want to hear it. But the fact is that they've been collecting this data bipartisanly. It's not been Democratic data or Republican data. It has simply been data. And so this administration's attempt, and we've seen it before. Let's not get it twisted. We've seen it before. People don't want to know the truth because the truth really hurts. And what hurts is we know, as the brother said earlier, we know how many people are hungry. You don't have to collect the data for you to tell me that you're hungry. You don't have to collect data for people to say they're not working. But what we have now is the data has been gold standard data bipartisanly. But this administration, like others before them, and I can tell you stories about the time that I think Reagan wanted to include imprisoned people as working to lower the unemployment rate. This was a long time ago. But data can be manipulated unless you have confidence in data. The sister who was leading the Bureau of Labor Statistics had no political axe to grind. However, because they did not like the numbers, they tried to throw the numbers away. And here we go again.
But here's the deal, Kelly. For Trump, MAGA, it's very simple. Poor people, out of sight, out of mind. That's what this is all about. He doesn't want to see poor people. He don't want to talk about poor people. He don't want to get questioned. And the whole thing is, a whole bunch of those folks who are in that report, those fools actually voted for him.
And that's what's really interesting about this. The fact that we're talking about USDA, who is the organization, the agency itself, is historically known for favoring white farmers, favoring non-people of color in ranching and landowning and all of these things, making sure, like gatekeeping programs from people who look like us so that they can benefit. Right? But what's interesting, and it's been alluded to by my colleagues here, but I want to bring the point home. In government, you can't get money without data. You cannot get money without data. What does that mean? These nonprofits that, help with food insecurity, that help with people who are unhoused, that apply for grants, that ask people for money. How do they ask people for money? They ask for sponsorships, they ask for grants, and they apply for these sponsorships and grants. And they use commercials, whatever marketing materials and marketing strategies necessary, right? But at the end of the day, at the heart of all of that strategy is data, and they pull it from what used to be nonpartisan sources such as the government. So when the government is saying that we're not going to collect the data, it's not even that it's inaccessible to you. We are stopping the collection of data. You are stopping money from getting into the hands of people who can help independently, people who can help these communities that look like me, that look like you, that look like your white counterparts, right? So it is not just a situation in which you don't want to deal with poor people. You don't want to deal with anything that says that, frankly, we're fucking up.
All right, folks, last story here, and another example of when you have to follow the law. A federal judge has ordered Jefferson County, Alabama's largest county, to redraw the commission district maps. U.S. District Judge Madeline Haikala ruled that the current plan violates the 14th Amendment's ban on racial gerrymandering. The 2021 plan packed black voters into 2 districts, diluting their voting power elsewhere. The federal judge ordered the county to have 30 days to produce a new map, or the court will draw one itself. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund calls the ruling a victory for fair representation, while county lawyers are already preparing an appeal. And so, folks, we're seeing this all over the place when it comes to these maps. All right, y'all, that is it for us. Let me thank Julian. Let me thank Cameron. Let me thank Kelly for being on today's show. Let me thank all of the people here with the Nancy Lieberman Klein Celebrity Golf Classic and her charity for the great hospitality hosting your golf tournament today. I appreciate bringing me in. It was great to participate, seeing a lot of the folks here. My man Chris Arnold, Basketball Hall of Famers, Alex English, Rick Berry, and others. Of course, we're here at this gorgeous course, the Lakes at Castle Hills in Louisville. Y'all can see, of course, the course behind me. This is literally my favorite time of day. The sun is setting, so you see how the sun is setting on a golf course. Oh, my favorite time of day. So I might go to hit some golf balls. All right, folks, that's it for us. Do us a favor, support the work that we do. We are building the nation's largest black newsroom, covering the issues that matter to us, and so your support is critical for what we're doing. The goal is to raise $1 million between now and December 31st, end of the year. We've got a couple of shows that we're launching. We're completely changing blackstarnetwork.com to be a news hub. Hopefully be launching that very soon. So all these things are happening. Your support is absolutely critical. And so if you want to support us, please use Cash App. Use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here to the bottom left-hand corner. You can also use that for credit cards as well. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Checks and money orders. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Download the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. If you want to get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, you can do so. You can also, of course, get the audio version that I read on Audible. If you want to get our Black Star Network swag, our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag, do so by going to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. You see our shirts. MAGA chose between woke or broke. They chose broke. We got FAFO, Project 2025, Black-owned media matters. Don't blame me. I voted for a black woman. And also that Howard John Wesley quote, how you died is not redeemed, how you lived. So get those shirts right there on the website. Also, there are black-owned companies that we support who are in our marketplace at shopblackstarnetwork.com. We want y'all to support those black-owned businesses. You see a lot of the products. I keep them on my news desk there in the studio. We got backpacks, scented candles. We've got food items as well. We've got desserts. I mean, all sorts of stuff, y'all. And so if y'all want to support those companies, please do so. You got leafy toilet paper. I mean, you got all sorts of different stuff. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com, shopblackstarnetwork.com. If you're looking for birthday gifts, anniversary gifts, of course, the Christmas season is going to be coming up, and so we want you to utilize black-owned businesses. Let's circulate these dollars in our community. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com, shopblackstarnetwork.com. Folks, also, don't forget, if you want to support Fanbase, download the app. Download the app Fanbase. And if you want to invest, they've raised $13.1 million. The goal is $17 million in this fundraise. And so that's the target goal. Go to startengine.com/fanbase, startengine.com/fanbase. Folks, that's it. I'm going to see y'all tomorrow right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. I'm back in studio in Washington, D.C. This week is Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Annual Legislative Conference. We'll be, of course, covering that, having a number of CBC members coming and doing the show this week as well. So lots to do, and I appreciate all of you as well. Thank you so very much. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered, Black Star Network. Holla!